So this is my own personal way of bleeding a 2.5 diesel Mazda bongo. It's not an instructional video for legal reasons. It's just me showing you the way that I've been doing it for many years, and it's quite easy. You will need, or I need, a 10mm clear plastic tube, 10mm inside diameter clear plastic tube, and I use a 10mm 90-degree plastic. It's called a barbed right angle connector, and that goes into the air bleed pipe, obviously coming from the side of the engine. And as you can see, I've already filled up the system. And the way I do that, the least mess-free way is to use what's called a tractor funnel. And you need to put it in the radiator first, because if you put it in the expansion tank first, you'll end up with air in the top of the radiator. So you need to fill this up until the water's up to that level there. Obviously you'll be able to see it inside there. And what we do is we just cut the end off that, so there's about 3/4 of an inch remaining on the funnel. And that means that when you put it in the radiator, it just sits there nice and tight on its own, doesn't leak, and it's hands-free. Got both hands free, so you can top that up. Obviously you want a 50-50 mix. I use the red oat antifreeze, at least 50-50. Antifreeze is not only a coolant, but it will stop the inside of the engine and any metal components going rusty as well. So that's all we do. We fill that up so the radiator's filled up. Put the funnel on that side. Put the radiator cap back on there. And then fill up the tank. Oh, here's another little tip. I just take that pipe out, lift it up. Otherwise, as you're filling the funnel, some of the water can come out that pipe. You'd only get a little drip, but better be none than some. So I can actually hear that water container is half full. But if you want to check, obviously, just take that out, and you can see down inside. You won't be able to see in this light, but I can see the waters. There is a little plastic line at the back of the tank, and if you shine a torch inside there, then you'll see the water level wants to be just about an inch below that water level. So funnel to one side, leave that cap off. Your water level should be about there. You will need to have the heater control set to maximum. So if it's a manual one, it'll have to be obviously The lever will have to be all the way to the right. If it's this type, then you need it right the way up to 32. Otherwise the valve won't open fully and the water won't flow through the heater matrix at the front. And then we simply start the engine and wait for approximately, I dare say 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes. Obviously depends on the temperature of the water when you're doing this. Until the heater monitor there is just below halfway, so the water is up to temperature. Now, if when you start your engine you get lots and lots of air bubbles coming out of here, this water moves up a lot, then your head gasket is definitely gone. Sometimes it can take 5-10 minutes for the engine to get hot before the crack in the cylinder head will open up wide enough to allow air through. And so if at any stage really you get lots of air bubbles coming up through here, then you've got a problem, usually with your cylinder head, but not always, but usually. If you start getting air bubbles through after 20-25 minutes, as long as you don't get too many of them, then it should be alright. It's rather like a kettle boiling, you get coming up through, and that's okay, but they will only come up through after about 20-25 minutes if the head's alright. If they come through straight away, your cylinder head is definitely gone. So we'll just start the engine and let it run for about 20 minutes, come back later. So after about 15 to 20 minutes, the temperature gauge should be up there, but it is normally just below the central mark, just to the left hand side there. If it ever goes above that, if it ever goes even vertical, then you've got a problem somewhere. You will need to have your temperature gauge turned up to 32 at the very max if you've got a digital climate control, or obviously if it's a manual heater control, then the heat has to be up to the very maximum. Yeah, that must be on 32, not 31, otherwise the valve will be half closed. So it must be on 32 to allow the valve to fully open, and then the hot water can travel through the little cooling radiator for the hot air events. As you can see, there's no bubbles, no nothing. That's after 20 minutes when it's red hot. So we can now turn the engine off. Pull the key out halfway.
I'm starting to, adjust to that idea without feeling terribly disappointed. And I'm starting to think, okay.
No water spills, there's no bubbling up.
I can write, and I have
No, nothing.
a few songs since.
So then,
I was going to ask you if there was more to come. Yeah, I've written a couple of songs. Also,
what is it?
there's an animated
Then,
project that I'm
litre jug.
the score for. And Edie and I always
obviously that water is red hot, steaming. That goes without saying. So what that will do, that will allow the red hot water to flow past the thermostat, which is down there, and the thermostat will probably already be open because the temperature is up to where it should be, about 88 degrees. And then put that back in there.
I wouldn't feel too good about that.
Right, why not? Because you feel it's just lacks the passion and the presence and the emotion that you guys put into it.
It's just one part of my career very early on.
Yeah.
And I'm not in touch with Art Garfunkel, so that's not something I'd be interested
And that
I don't know whether I'd be interested in
is all we need to do.
I don't know. Quite honestly,
Well, we will now put the plug back in.
I don't find myself thinking too much about the past. In fact, I haven't even heard some songs since I finished November.
Is that usual for you to not listen to records?
Yeah. I don't go and listen to my work once I finish with it. I listen to it so much.
There's a plug.
when I'm
There's a
working
plug.
on it that, by the time I'm finished, I'm finished. Kind of
With the release of 7 songs and are you content? Are you at peace?
There we go, plug back in. So obviously I put the Jubilee clip back on there. Just been clipped back up to the top there. And then run it again for another 10-15 minutes and make sure there are no problems.
What do you mean? Are you happy?
What you can do is
I'm happy. Peace is more.
you should be able to squeeze that hose there. There's no pressure in it.
But it's an ideal
And
state,
the bottom hose on the radiator
just the way
should be
life
nice and
is.
squishy.
You can't always be
Well, you
happy.
can even squish the one under the driver's seat.
Peace, but it's something that I have to work at.
So you should be able to squish that, both sides of that, so that they touch. Obviously it's going to be hot, so be careful. Yeah, there's no pressure there, and it should still be like that after it's been running for another 10 minutes or so.